You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life,
whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
Hello. Hey, it is Carlie's Couch, but you know that because you just hit play. But did you know? I don't have nothing, but leave us a review. If you haven't yet, leave us 5 stars, a review, so we can have something nice to read. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if we had a few things to read on our 100th episode coming up.
Because it's right around the corner.
Yep. But nonetheless, we have something important to talk about today. And I guess obviously it goes towards you guys because you're listening and you're the audience. But part of it is about like what your information diet is. Like, what are you taking in with your time? What are you taking in when it's media or books or whatever else? Like, why is that important? That's something that Carlie and I prepared for you on this day today. And so we're going to discuss what our information diets are.
Yeah, because when people hear the word diet, often it's just associated with food. But everything that you interact with on a daily basis, see, hear, like have around you, like nourishes you, whether negative or positive. And so just exploring the intentionality around that. And then also, at what point is too much too much?
Yeah, because just because stuff tastes good doesn't mean it's good for you. At the same time, there's a balance of wanting to enjoy, things. So we're not saying at the end of this, the moral is not going to be like go to a cave and make sure you're just only reading self-help. So do not be afraid of that. But it is important to just think about where you're just taking in information and what are you putting inside of your mind, because that does matter. So Carlie, what types of things do you consume?
I consume podcasts, music. Sometimes I watch TV shows and movies. I read books, articles, and then I'm on social media a lot. So when I say it like that, it sounds like, damn, like I consume a lot of stuff like every single day. It's kind of like being inundated. What about you?
The same, but I'm interested in like within these spaces, like what types? Because I feel like everybody would probably say for the most part that they do some of those things. Like our listeners obviously listen to podcasts. Most people listen to music and stuff. Everybody doesn't read. You should. There's this crazy stat that like 70, it has to be higher than 70%. I don't know what exactly it is, but of people don't read after school or never pick up like another book after school, which is interesting and
scary.
Yeah, personally, like I get everything out of those, out of books, out of audiobooks too, is another way you can pull in from that as well. But like what type of stuff? Like it's not, I don't know, maybe it is like you just watching yoga movies. Like what are you doing?
No, I've never watched a yoga movie. Podcasts and sermons, like I listen to when I'm running, and most of the time it's self-help things. So it's like, Lewis Howes, like School of Greatness type stuff. Sometimes that's when I like re-listen to our podcast. Listening to sermons like One Church LA, sometimes like Transformation Church or Elevation, just different things that I don't have like a long span of time or like an attention span for. Like sometimes it's hard for me to sit for an hour and do something, but when I'm running, like I'm going to be there regardless. And so that music is all over the place. I have my staples, but I've been trying to explore new things that I haven't really heard. Shows and movies, I'm much more particular about shows. I don't watch a lot of shows or TV, but when I do, it's like I would say almost not as intentional as the other spaces. So like This Is Us, which I think is a brilliantly written show. Like, the depth of the characters. I just appreciate that. And I happen to cry every episode. My best friend in China, he's like, bro, you got to stop watching those episodes. Like, cause I be crying. Movies are whatever I feel like in the moment. Books, mostly self-help, but from Lex, I don't even remember what podcast or something, but, integrating fiction into what I'm doing too. So it's not always just like reading about trying to be better. It's just also allowing my brain some free time to roam and explore. Fantasy, just finished the first like Children of Blood and Bone book, which is amazing. Articles are mostly for research. So that's mostly for things for my business, mostly for things around my work and what I would do. And then also looking for stats, like your stat about 70% of people don't read. Like I'm looking for those things just to learn and grow. And then social media, I mean, I'm on all the social media platforms, but I really like the algorithm on TikTok, which I've been like deleting from my phone and putting back on it. But it's really responsive and shows me actually what I search for, because I believe their algorithm is the most responsive. So like I looked up a couple of Polynesian dance videos and then my whole feed was that. And I looked up a couple like manifesting videos, my whole feed was that. And then cooking videos, and that was my whole feed. And so I look a lot for physical therapy, for recipes, and for like cultural fun stuff.
That's cool. So it sounds like a lot of your stuff is for educational purposes and because you're interested in learning something. I would say the same. Like all my podcasts are for learning / gaining just maybe something to click with the different things that I listen to. I started like my business not off of, but like using like Smart Passive Income and School of Greatness at the time when it was more about business types of guests and how to grow your business. Back in like 2012. And so I really like get a lot from those. And I gain a lot from listening to the different guests because you're hearing their stories and how they started something or how they're doing something well, or what issues they've dealt with and how they did. And so for me, that's cool to listen to music. And lately I've kind of caught myself in the same old music. And I actually haven't been listening to as much music lately as I usually do. So maybe I'm kind of just taking a break from that. I like a lot of like Netflix and HBO Go shows, Showtime shows like Game of Thrones, Homeland, those types of like ongoing shows for the most part. The only show that I like cried every episode is like Queer Eye. That joins me so like
I don't think I've ever watched that.
yeah, the new season or like the new like reboot of it, like every time, like they get you every time.
Oh, gotta watch it.
Yeah, and then of course I just love my like self-help books, but after a while, again, you get tired of like reading the same stuff, or you recognize it's everybody's kind of saying the same things, and so sometimes I will, based off of like the podcast, I might check into that person and get their information or get a book of theirs, and a lot of times I'll be like, oh, it's the same. They kind of have their same points they make in stories and stuff. So lately, I think I've been listening more to things. I look up everything. So like anytime I have any question, I'll Google it, or I'll read I read a lot of like blog posts from things like Baggage Reclaim or Psychology Today and things like that, like just trying to get more understanding around feelings or learning things in that kind of mental space. And one thing that's interesting, like social media, I like my time's not crazy there actually. But I'll scroll a lot, of course, read. I don't really participate as much as I used to. But one thing, this might be just random, that I think is interesting too about people and understanding like what kind of messaging you're getting from each of these places. Because one thing I saw that I thought was really interesting was that if you look at, you're going to get way more information from Google searches or like from people's Google searches about them than from social media, because they said, for example, with social media, you see all these like, man, my husband got me flowers, or oh, my husband's so great, or I love my family. But then in Google, it's, if you put in like my husband, all the top searches are like,
Wild.
Isn't paying attention to me anymore. How do I do this or how do I do that? So, recognizing like with all these different spaces, like being able to know like what you're going to get from it. What is this, what is this representative of? Like, why am I here? For entertainment or for validation or to learn something, or to just veg out. Because a lot of times I'll put on my show and it's like I'm watching it, but then it's like, man, I'm not really paying attention sometimes. So we take in a lot, mostly through screens, I think. But I can say for me, like I am very intentional about what I take in for the most part. And by that, I mean, like I'm not, and I don't know if anybody like will read a book or watch something that they don't like. So, I mean, you're going to like what you do, but I, for the most part, outside of things that are just for entertainment, like for me, music and what I watch is for the most part going to be entertaining, but everything else, I'm there for a reason, and that, all right, I want this to help me grow in a particular space. And so I'm very intentional about like which things I'm listening to or reading, because I'm looking to explore, grow in that theme or in that place.
That's the majority of why I do anything that I do. Is, to grow, to get better, to learn something, or to just have fun and feel a type of way. Like if I'm like want to laugh, like I might watch like a comedy special or might watch something that I know will make me laugh. or cry and watch things that make me cry, like things like that. Like I think I'm very intentional with everything that I consume every single day.
So have you ever how do you think it would be if like you had a question or if you were thinking about something and like have you ever just not looked for a resource or looked for information? Like do you feel like you need to do that you need to like find the book or read an article as soon as you're like thinking about something or you know?
Yeah, I feel like I always Google things. Like anytime I have a question or we're talking about something, like let's say we were having a conversation about whales or whatever, I'm going to be like, I don't know. And I'm going to look it up. And I don't know. I haven't ever stopped to think of why that is, but I always want to know.
Have you always been like that?
Yeah, I've always been super curious. And even on like one of these strengths finders tests, whatever the file, like PHILE, it is like you love learning. Like I am whatever that is.
And I when I was a kid, I remember we had the 93 encyclopedias, like the whole thing. And so like I would just read those too. So I always like enjoyed learning about stuff and reading about stuff. I think mostly as an escape because I wanted to have those adventures. I like learn about these different places or these different things or like fossils and like dinosaurs, whatever it may be. Like I think I just enjoy kind of just like going to that place. And I think I've always enjoyed doing that more through reading than necessarily like watching stuff.
What I think is cool is like I used to read to escape when I was little, but I never put that together like, oh, I'm going to do this to do this. It was just something that I loved to do and I knew it could get me there, but I never actually thought about the intention behind it.
And it's something you could do by yourself too. And so like when you're consuming different media or books, for the most part, do you do that by yourself or is that like
For the most part, it's just me. It's like my choice for, whatever I want to do. Unless it's like we're watching a show after we record a podcast. I'm like, I don't care. Because I'm so intentional with like my time and like what I do in that time that I'm open to, whatever else there could be. And I might be, missing out on stuff just because I don't know about it.
So what is wrong then? Or is it wrong? Because I know there's been like a lot of discussion around like what is it, like garbage in, garbage out, right? And so a lot of the stuff I feel like that is on TV kind of sometimes can perpetuate maybe certain stereotypes, and you can tell a lot of things are changing now, right? Like people are really calling for things to be representative, inclusive, etc.
Damn time.
But it, a lot of those things like remember with Columbine and the Matrix and like they try to connect that or how they connect to video games. Video games could be another, thing that you're taking in. Not for me. Phone games, shout out Bianca Jones. Phone games, a lot of people like spend time on that too, but sometimes it's because they want to veg out. But what do you feel about like garbage in, garbage out? Like, is it one of those things like, oh man, everything I consume, has to be for the betterment or what?
I think that there's a lot of truth to that statement, garbage in, garbage out, because everything you do consume either nourishes you or it doesn't. There's like not really an in between for me, I think. I think it's cool to take intentional time to veg out. If it is, trash reality TV or games or, whatever you do for you. But I think you have to be intentional about it because if that's all that you're consuming, like really what is that saying about how you spend your time? And so I think it does matter. I don't think you have to be meticulous, like to the detail, like every single minute of every single day has to be accounted for with thoughtful programming for yourself and structured. But I think that you do have to be aware of something's in my eyeball. I think you do have to be aware of like what's coming in and what's coming in. Like you really have to think about that. And people are like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm only listening to this or I'm only watching this, every night. But then how much does that start to consume? And then the things that you watch and the things that you listen to inevitably sometimes influence the things that you talk about and your perceptions. And so it really is important.
And especially with music too, I think a lot of people have so many arguments they try to make around, what you listen to and like, oh, there's so much cursing or it's all about sex or this or that. And, it's one of those things where like, well, it's kind of reflective of people and where they are. And I think it's something that you have to decide for yourself about, is this affecting me and how? So like, how can you know what the results are from what information you're taking in? Like, how can you connect those dots?
I think it's evident in like conversations. So for me, that, like I said, the things that I take, like that I listen to, I'm like, oh man, you might send me a podcast and be like, hey, I think this, you might like this. And I'm like, yo, that's thoughtful. And then I'll like listen to it and like, yo, this hoe is fire. And I might send it to Stacey Ann or to somebody. And then we'll start talking about it. Oh, but what did you think about that? Which we could be doing about reality TV. We could be doing about whatever. And so you start to notice, what your conversations are, what your thoughts are around things, or if, all we are is on Twitter all day, when we're sending each other memes, like that's fine too. But you notice like that's what the bulk or the meat of the conversations and those things are in your life.
So that's a good place of measurement too. I think that what you're alluding to, or what's something I could pull out from what you just said is by your friend group. I think by paying attention or noticing like, oh, what do my friends talk about? What do we talk about when we're together can kind of be a, not a result, but like that can be like a side, not a side effect either. There's a word I'm trying to think of, but it can kind of show you like, all right, the people that I'm talking to about particular things like reflects like what I'm taking in, but also does all of that reflect what I'm trying to be doing, what I am trying to talk about. Like obviously, like if we like talking about certain things, then of course like that shows like we're in the same boat on what we like to pull in. But if you feel like, okay, maybe what I'm taking in isn't that awesome because I'm spending a lot of time talking about it too. Like outside of just like, if you watch reality TV, I think that's fine. But if your whole day's conversation is, ooh, I can't believe she did this and that. And it's like, there's kind of more important things to be like thinking about, I think. And so to that, it's like, all right, if that's what everybody around you is kind of talking about with you, is that a good thing that it keeps you in feeling like, oh, I can't miss this week, or I have to watch these episodes, or I want to stay on top of this to, have those conversations. Because it's more time than just you watching the stuff. It's like what else you're doing afterwards, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And like when you're listening to, watching things, consuming them, like you start to see them more often. And what I mean by that is like, if I listen to a podcast on synchronicity or on fear of failure, whatever I'm listening to, like inevitably I'm going to start seeing books for that. I'm going to start seeing posts on Instagram. I'm going to start talking to my friends about it. Like we might even have a conversation that, wasn't intentionally about that subject matter, but that starts to come up in my life. And so, just looking at what comes up and are those themes in alignment with your goals and vision and kind of what you want for your life.
Yeah, because maybe on the flip side of that, to make it connect even more, you may be in more fear, or you might be more afraid of particular things. Let's say, like sometimes even with my parents, I'm like, y'all, why do we have this fake beware the dog sign in the front? Like, who do y'all think is coming after y'all? But maybe being inundated with so much news or like watching certain things, people live in a certain space of thinking like, oh man, let me lock every door. Not that you should lock your doors, but you know what I mean? Like, being more worried, more afraid, more concerned about particular things, or, after 9/11 or with certain things happening, like certain groups then being looked at funny by everybody because, okay, we're watching all of this news and it's kind of putting in you a fear, or like putting in certain biases into your mind as well. And so to think about like the things that, how you think about your world, like if that's reflective from what you see, wondering if changing some of the things I input changes what I focus on or what my perspective is on in the real world around me, like what I see. And maybe what I see is more of growth opportunities versus, oh, people coming to get me or people after me or, whatever else negative it might be.
Exactly. And connecting it to, we're going back to, like a diet. So let's say you're trying to like lose weight. So you would be very conscious of those things that you put in your body. You might not put a whole bunch of high calorie foods. You might not be eating a lot of cake or drinking a lot of alcohol. It's the same thing here. So if you find yourself in that space of fear or of even groupthink, like if the only things you're reading and looking at and listening to are things that confirm what you already know or, aren't challenging you to grow, like what space are you really putting yourself in? Like, what are you really stoking in your life? Is it those things to elevate you, those things to push you, to challenge you, to make you aware of certain things you might not see? Or is it just to keep you comfortable and to keep you in fear or to keep you anxious? Like, thinking about how much news you watch. If all you're watching all day is the news, like I imagine that your heart rate and blood pressure are probably pretty damn high right now.
Mm-hmm. And also to that, that is an important thing too, is to not just consume what's gonna confirm your biases. I don't remember who it was, but I remember somebody talking about the other day how, if they're exploring an idea, like they really don't just look at and read people's who've written articles that's like what they believe. Maybe it was political or something. I don't really remember. But also they're going to make sure like they really read the other side too and like try to understand like, all right, all pieces of this so they can get a full picture of it, which is important as well. And so you don't want to just confirm, yourself, because that's not really a way to grow either. You being in these or having this space helps it to come in fruition. Okay. So another thing too is like, especially if a lot of the things you consume are around like growth mindset or, improvement in any way, it really helps like you to get there. For me, like I listen to multiple things every day, but I just know I'm already in that space, right? I know I'm in a space where I enjoy challenging myself to do things differently or to get different results or better results. And everybody's not, in the same mindsets for wanting to be in that space. But for me, like once you're in that space, like anything you pull in, it's like a sponge. Like you really can see things change very, very quickly. If I'm in a space where like, all right, I can hire people, or I'm in a space where I need more people. And if I need to learn how to do that, or what are some good tips or whatever, reading like the 4-Hour Work Week when I did years ago was immediately like, oh, I can get a virtual assistant now. And then like actually seeing new things and doing new things and like just completely changing your life, to be honest. So I think being in the space to absorb, now it's important like to really be intentional about what those things are that you're absorbing and like to seek out in those spaces. If it's around a particular concept or theme, seek out those bloggers who are at the top there, or seek out those podcasts that are at the top, and check out those books or magazines. And you can really like start to incorporate a lot of that right then.
I love that. And from camp, we do this camp that I talked about last week where we have a whole bunch of kids. We do these things called possibility panels, and we bring in people who look like them or might look like their cousins, or, all these Black and brown people who have careers that maybe they've never even heard of. Like they might not even know, what Alexia does, but seeing her, be an entrepreneur and work in this branding space. Exactly.
They wasn't even looking at us. I was one of the judges. They was just like, all right. So,
but like, creating these possibilities, like, and the idea is you cannot be what you cannot see. And so if what you're like feeding yourself with and nourishing yourself with doesn't like expand your perspective or challenge you to grow in different ways, then you might be limiting yourself and limiting opportunities. But at what point is, consuming too much? Like, is it possible to be too intentional or just to consume too much stuff?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily possible to be too intentional about anything that you do, but you can chill. Like you don't have to like wake up and read, your self-help book and then listen to your podcast. Like I don't think you always have to be doing all that. But not even just about those types of things, but just taking a break is nice, like from social, from watching news, from watching anything, right? And I feel like that naturally happens for me, at least, where, I'll notice like, I don't really, I haven't really meditated for a while, or I haven't really watched TV in a while, or right now, like I haven't really been, hyped about having to hear the latest music that just came out this week. Like I'm not really in that space, or maybe I'm not reading or whatever. And so I think it's good to take those breaks, or to at least just pay attention to yourself to see where you need to be. Because sometimes I've used information as, maybe a source of procrastination, or just something to kind of do instead of other things. So depending on where your focus is, or what you've been doing a lot of, like, after a while, like, girl, you've read enough, like, what you need to be doing. If you're talking about like self-help books, for example, and it's like, let's get to work. So it's kind of making sure that if you're intentional about what you're pulling in, like also what's the purpose. And so if we don't need that purpose right now, or if it's not serving that purpose, then, it's okay to chill.
Mm-hmm. And to give yourself space. Like if you're always just intaking, like in our digestive system, we intake things and then they output. So it's like, what is your output looking like? Are you giving yourself that space to be still, to pause, to take a moment, to reflect, to think about, man, I just read all these books and listened to all these podcasts. How does that really affect my life? Like, where am I really with all of these things? And whether that's journaling or even just sitting with your own thoughts, like how much time are you taking just for you. So your thoughts not being influenced by anybody else, by anything else. Like how much of your schedule or how much of your day are you just you?
Yeah, because that is like a constant conversation. When you're watching something, you're engaged. When you're reading something, you're engaged. And being able to just be by yourself. Do you ever feel like if you're not watching a show or the news, or if you're not on social for the day, that you're missing out on things?
Yeah, I don't watch the news, but I mean, I read articles and things, but I just don't watch the news because it's whatever. But I do feel like I might be missing out on stuff like, oh, let me log in. Like, why? Like, why do I feel the need every day? And I just noticed, because I'll pick up my phone and go straight to, Instagram, straight to Twitter. It's like, why? What am I going to miss out on? And I think sometimes that keeps us from unplugging, because people don't want to miss out on the conversation, don't want to feel like they're not part of whatever this thing is. Do you ever feel like that?
Nah.
That's good.
I don't think so, because when I log on, it's for other reasons. Like, if anything, maybe it's more about just the validation, or hey, people, I'm alive, or something like that. And even with that, not even that deep. But I don't go there because I feel like I'm missing it. Now, if I'm hearing about something going on, like, oh, somebody got shot, then that I'll probably more likely go to social media before I go to other stuff, just to figure out what's going on. But for the most part, not so much. But it's also important to recognize what information really is important, and what is going to be okay. Like, if you don't hop on it right then, or if you don't attend to it right then. I want to say, this might be wrong, but I want to say it was Napoleon. No. It was one of the presidents, an older, way back in the day president. But I was reading something and was like, he never let anything get to his desk that hadn't already been looked at by a couple different groups or people first, because it's like,
Teddy?
Huh?
So is that Teddy? Anyways,
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe, but I'm not sure. I want to say the other Roosevelt.
Franklin.
Yeah, maybe. But his thing was like, all right, if it's not, if it's important enough, then it'll actually get to me. And also it'll get to me with solutions. So, and I think Napoleon had a thing too, where he was like, when he got information or his letters back, because at the time it's it ain't emails anyway. But when he got his info in written form, he would always let it sit for 2 weeks. And they said he found that at the end of the 2 weeks, when you finally read this stuff, either it's already been taken care of, or it's still important, and now it makes sense for me to pay attention to it. So it's not even having this urgency or this rush around information or around what's happening, and not letting that run you, because sometimes I have felt you let media run you, and it's oh, I gotta be here and I gotta log in and see what's going on, morning shift, or something happened, let me log in, instead of just letting stuff happen. Justice for Jesse, and it's oh, whoops, you know what I mean? You ain't have to rush and do all that. So, it's not feeling ran by everything else around you, but being intentional about, what you do pull in and why. And like we said, letting it be for a real purpose, or because it's actually important to you.
Yeah. Man, that makes me think a lot about emails and things being urgent to other people, their fires becoming my emergencies because of things not being done. And that just took me back to the corporate world. But that is so real, and not letting, even if you wake up, like we've said many a times, not letting social media be the first thing that you do, or your email, or your text messages. Even it should just be you, and you setting the tone for your day, and not allowing your consummation or consumption, that's not the word, not consummation.
Okay, Carlie.
Not letting your consumption be the thing that dictates
what you're doing in the morning.
Not letting your consumption be the thing that oh man, I'm gonna have a fucked up day now. You should wake up, make your plan, and then everything else should move according. You have to really own your power. And I think that's what a lot of this is about, is yes, we consume these things, but they shouldn't be owning your schedule or your power or how you move.
Yeah, that's real, because also we might not be able to do 2 weeks not paying attention to stuff, but whatever maybe that looks like for us. I don't like looking at people email immediately or answering them immediately, just because I don't want them to get used to that, unless different things are different, right? That make more sense, where it's good to be quicker. And one thing I am learning is it's good to just at least be hey, I got this, or I'll be like, hey, I'll get this to you by next week, you know, and
Same.
then look at it later for real. But you know, not letting that push you. But what you consume really does affect like your moods, especially in the morning, I find. So that's why actually when I think about it, and you can answer this too, like when do you consume the most like stuff, and how different is it at different times of the day? Because for me in the morning, and that's when I'll first probably put on like either the right music that's going to get me hype while I'm listening to my coffee, drinking my coffee, or that podcast that like is going to get me started, you know what I mean? Like those are usually like things I do in the morning, and they get me started in a specific space. Or like with if I'm reading a nonfiction book, like that's in the morning usually, that I'll read that while I'm drinking my coffee too. So I noticed my morning, I try to have nutritional, like feed myself with something that's going to like make me think a little bit. Whereas as I go through the day, it then goes down towards like entertainment.
Dessert.
Yeah,
That's your dessert.
like trash. And then I'm trying to think like right before, like even like before I go to bed, like if I read, that's when I try to do like my fiction now. But yeah, but like I feel like it goes down towards the day. How about you?
I was about to say it's the same. I think my first thing though is like I try to, think of my gratitude stuff. I try to journal. And I say I try because, inevitably I'm human. I'm working on myself. I try to journal, pray, think about my gratitude list, maybe stretch a little bit, do things that are just for me. And then I'm ready to consume things that nourish me, that will help build me. Like, cause I'm most attentive early in the mornings. And so that's when I'm most apt to learn things, to be engaged, to do that. Cause if I try to read my nonfiction book at night, it's not. Yeah, it's trash. I be lying to myself every time.
But also like how you said too, where, what you're taking in, the information you're taking in from your book or what you're listening to, you see those things. And so I think that's why it's good, like in the mornings, like that's why I'm more focused on, all right, in the morning, I need a certain type of input, because now through the day, like that's kind of something to be aware of or think about, or, let that marinate or whatever. So I think that's part of it, is that it helps you be in a state of being self-aware through the day, and just kind of being like present with like whatever it is I'm kind of focusing on.
Exactly. And then at night, like I like the fiction books, like in the afternoon if I'm reading, because that's when my mind starts to like just kind of bleh. And so that's kind of good just to take me somewhere else. Or like right before bed, that's nice. I also try to journal then too. That's another output, just kind of like how my day was. And like my music changes, like she said, hype music in the morning or really chill, and then hype in the middle of the day. And then, Chilombo Deluxe at night, like different type music. Yeah, I haven't listened to that. It's pretty fire. But yeah, that's just thinking through what you consume, how it affects you, and being intentional about it. And just noticing what input and output, what actions you're taking. Because if you're constantly consuming and not taking any action, get it together. We're in this together, but you got to start making some moves and not just constantly consuming. But just, being more intentional for yourself.
Yeah, I would want everybody this week to think about, what are the main spaces where I'm consuming information, whether it be like audio, visual, are you reading, are you listening to different podcasts? I feel like a lot of people in like our audience, like we said, you're listening to this podcast, so you probably listen to some others. And so like I would press you to like think about what you're consuming, how, why, what are you getting out of it? And also sending podcasts to your friends. So like if there's certain things you consume, like are you recommending that to other folks? Like are you developing kind of community and accountability around those things as well? I think that's the coolest part about like listening to podcasts for me, is that, man, like I get so many ideas and, so many things I can incorporate, and then you want to share it with other people. And so that's something that we hope that we do with this podcast, because that's, what we wanted to do. Like we talk about these things a lot, like with ourselves, our friends, etc. And so, yeah, even with this, like our goal is to be a healthy nutrition to you, or at least make you think about something. So we appreciate that you are listening. And yeah, I want you to hit us this week and let us know, like, what does that look like for you? Or, what are you reading right now? In your IG story, throw up your book that you're reading this week, or throw up the podcast that you're reading this week after you throw up Carlie's Couch.
Hey.
And let us know.
Yeah, would love to hear that. At Carlie's Couch on Instagram and Twitter. At Lextopia CC Fierce. And then on Twitter is Carlie Carpio. I'm going to get that together, y'all. But yeah, let us know. Hit us up. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, if you haven't yet, leave us a review. 5 stars, please. If you want to write something, we'll read it. We always love hearing from you. And then I think we have a shout out this week.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out Sway Brand, which is the startup that I work with out of Chicago. They are opening up now for Authenticas, which is what we're calling our influencers. And so Sway Brand is a platform that connects more influencers, especially of color and of diverse backgrounds, niche areas, with bigger brands. So we have a lot of connections with these bigger brands that, you know, they spend a lot of money on these campaigns, but, you know, A, they're like, we want to be part of the culture, but we're scared. We don't really know. And B, it's like, they don't really know who, you know, those popping people are sometimes. Like, yo, like I know my friend Daria knows all the fucking stylist stuff, skincare stuff, whatever. And it's like, boom, connect those dots. So right now we are taking in, I believe, our first 100 Authenticas influencers. And so you can go to swaybrand.com/AUTHENTIKAS and sign up and start a profile. And we're going to start making those connections very soon and having you use our platform and the app to start getting free stuff sent to you from these brands and just starting to build those relationships.
Oh, that's super dope. It'll be in the show notes too, just in case you missed that. So make sure you check it out and sign up.
And I don't know if the sign up asks who sent you, but put my name in there because I got stock and and that's based on my performance of pulling people in too. So I need y'all to make sure y'all be like, Lex, send me in here. Thank you.
I'm going to sign up after this. But now our question of the week is, where can you let go of control and allow yourself to be more free?
Oh, where am I controlling? Probably easier for somebody else to answer this about me. Be more free. I don't know. Maybe if I felt a little more stressed right now, I could think of something. But how would you answer that? So I can maybe think of.
So one of my friends this week told me that in any time it's like my project, that I'm a perfectionist and that I stress myself out over everything being perfect. And I'm still like chewing on that and thinking about it. But I think I could loosen my grip a little bit on those things.
On what things though?
Like on my projects, like on wanting things to be a certain way, and how everything comes together. If you're working with other
people,
yeah. So maybe that's an area that I'm thinking through. Like I said, I'm still kind of chewing on it. So I might have a different answer next time, but that's where I am at the moment.
Right now, I feel like I've been letting go of a lot of, like when it comes to work, like delegating stuff as much as I can, where it like makes sense that they can have those convos. Like, so, you know, right now I'm still probably the main person who like talks about services and does that part and stuff, but really letting go a lot. Shout out Marquise who, working with one of our clients, like he'll be in the meetings without me and stuff and kind of delegating to shout out Gifts to intern and
shout
to
out
the copy
to Gift,
people
though.
to Jaleesa doing the designs. Like, so a lot of things are moving without me needing to be there. So that feels good. If you could think of something about me, let me know, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head right this second. Cause even honestly, like in the last week, even with like relationship type stuff for like other people, like I just kind of like, I don't know. I kind of don't care anymore about like trying to make anybody do anything.
You know what's funny is if this was our question probably like 3 months ago, my answer would have been relationships. But now I'm like,
right,
doesn't matter.
Do your thing.
Let that shit go.
Holla back. Ciao.
And on that note,
we out. Consume good things this week, guys. Bye.
Bye.